Hello, everyone. Hi, how is everyone doing? Welcome to the live stream. This is going to be the first of two live streams that we're going to have this month. This one, we're going to talk about migrating families during the 1740 decade. And then the second one will be held August 24th at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time, and it will cover all of the roads dating to the 1810 time frame in North Carolina. If you want to hear a specific topic that for us to talk about, let us know. We'd love to hear from you. We value your opinions and suggestions and comments, and so let us know about them. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to say hi to everybody really quick. My name's Carol. In case you don't know, I'm with Piedmont Trails, and I'm saying hi to Judy from Chicago. Welcome, Judy. Mary is here from Louisiana. Welcome. Melissa's here from New York. Hello. Melissa says the 1740s is such an interesting time. Yeah, a lot of things were changing during the 1740s. That is for sure. Hope says hello, everyone. Hi, Hope. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. So, like I said, this is going to be the first of two live streams that we're going to hold in August, and we deeply apologize for not being able to go live in July. We had a few setbacks, but that's okay. It's all good. So we're holding two for August. Once we get through this one, then we'll talk more about the roads. But if you have suggestions, let us know what you'd like to hear. Okay? Let us know what you're more interested in. So I know most of you are really eager about knowing more about your ancestor, and hopefully you're hoping that you'll hear your ancestor's surname, or maybe learn more details about them. I understand that. Believe me, I've been researching genealogy and family history for a very, very long time now. So I get where you're coming from. So we're going to mention over 100 surnames tonight. And I got several details about most of them. Okay. But what I'm going to also do is offer lookups, live lookups for you. I have my databases pulled up on my computer. And I also have a couple of books here, and I'm going to offer lookups from these. These are some of the best that date from this time period, and I'm going to show you what they are. Several of these I have mentioned over the past years on YouTube, especially during live streams, that, they're valuable. They're so valuable. But Kegley's, I looked to see if it was still available, and it is. But Kegley's Virginia Frontier, I highly recommend this book if you are researching in the 1740 decade. It has a lot of information about it in Virginia. If you are, and you have to excuse my notes here, this is a very valued friend, Carolina Cradle from Settlement of the Northwest Carolina Frontier, 1747 to 1762. This is by Robert Ramsey. The Kegley book is by Frederick Kegley, by the way. This is a very valued friend if you're researching this time frame as well. Another good book by Cecil Odell is Pioneers of the Old Frederick County in Virginia. And last but not least is Virginia Genealogical Society, published, I think, in the late 90s or may have been late 80s, of Augusta County, Virginia road orders during this time. One of the main highways passed through this area of Augusta, present-day Augusta County. So this road order started out in 1745, so very valuable tool, very valuable. So if you suspect that your ancestors, you don't hear me mention their names, then if you want me to do a lookup in these books, then I'll be happy to do that for you online tonight. If you don't happen to have access to them, then I'll be happy to look them up for you. All right. So, and like someone said, what was it that Melissa said? 1740s was such an interesting time. There was a lot going on, whole lot going on. But the 1740s was the second main phase for the Great Migration. The first phase occurred in the late 1720s, and then it moved into the late 1730s. The second phase of the migrations occurred during the 1740s. And with each phase, there were more and more and more people joining the effort and migrating elsewhere. They were migrating from the middle colonies for various reasons, and they were migrating south. As the migration years extended and when it started to fade away for the colonial colonies, then more and more people were branching out to the west. But in the initial phases, everybody was migrating south. They were going to South Carolina, North Carolina, even parts of Georgia, eastern sections of present-day Tennessee, Kentucky, and Virginia, and Maryland. They were all heading south. And they were leaving New York and New Jersey and Pennsylvania and Delaware. It's not to say that there weren't some families that left from the northern colonies. They did, but it was more, we find more families leaving the middle colonies. And there's various reasons for that. The middle colonies were more diverse. They had a whole lot more different people settling there. Middle colonies welcomed more people into their areas, and it was becoming crowded. That's true. Land was becoming more scarce. That's true. But there were also other things going on during the 1740s that would make them want to leave and go elsewhere. So one of the reasons why, there's four main reasons that I think. The Great Awakening years, okay, they are occurring during this time frame. A lot of times, original destination was not Pennsylvania. For many of these colonial ancestors, they didn't have a choice. They had to land in Pennsylvania, or they had to sail up the Delaware River and land in New Jersey, or they had to settle for Delaware, or they had to settle for New York for a short time. For a lot of these families, in other words, this was not their original destination because of pamphlets that were handed out kind of like this. This is in German. And a lot of these pamphlets were handed out to various families in other countries to entice them to come to North Carolina. And it was heavily advertised. And this began in the end of 1720, 1730 decade. So a lot of families, and I have several ancestors who their original destination was North Carolina. I would like to think this was one of the actual pamphlets, maybe that a copy of that they had actually read. But, of course, I don't know that. But these were very popular. Here's another example. Very popular. And they were everywhere, and they were mass produced. And they enticed these families to sail to the colonies. The thing of it is they were not always successful in landing into North Carolina, or either of the Carolinas, north or south. So they had to settle for a while. And oftentimes you'll find the first or second generations that were arrived in the colonies remained in the middle colonies where they originally arrived. But years later, they migrated south. So keep that in mind. You'll have to go back to their original, when they departed, to get the details of it. And maybe you will discover, hey, Pennsylvania wasn't my ancestors' original destination either. They were destined for North Carolina. And then that may have been the reason why they left during the 1740s. Here's another example. This one, they would also advertise in various newspapers too. And even though this doesn't date to 1740, this is a newspaper ad that was placed in the Pennsylvania Gazette advertising McCullough's lands in present-day southern North Carolina, mostly in Mecklenburg County, Anson County, in that area. And this was published in 1762. But this gives you an example that, advertising tools were very useful, and they were used during the colonial period and in the 1740 decade as well. So advertisements did play a role. And also colonial politics. Okay, we got into colonial politics on our last live stream. Had a lot of good positive feedback from that. Thank you, guys. And I had one person to tell me that it really opened up a whole new world for them, and as far as the way that they researched. And so they started using different avenues, and they have found out so much more information about their family because of that. So that's good. I mean, that's what we were aiming for, was to have you to look at things a little bit different. And then, of course, the other reasons were land and prosperity. Most of the families who ended up migrating were not very well-to-do, wealthy families, okay? They were mostly made up of farmers. And so their prosperity was in land ownership. And so this was another reason for them to take off and go and migrate elsewhere. Okay, let me read somebody else's comment. I'll end with Hope. Christina's here. Hey, Christina. And Boak, B-O-A-K, B-Oak, okay, from United Kingdom. Listening to this kind of historical information is really interesting to me. You're a great communicator. Thank you. What nice words. Thank you for joining us. Hello, Beverly's here. Hello, and Charles from Missouri. Welcome, everyone. All right, when we started with the reasonings, I wanted to 1740s. Most people think, oh, it's the Great Awakening years. Why was that so important? It was a time of reevaluating yourself. There were traveling ministers who were drawing huge crowds. Can you just imagine a field or with thousands of people dressed in colonial attire attending a sermon and becoming so interested in it that it transforms them? They change as a person, or they look at things differently. Benjamin Franklin even remarked about the preacher George Whitefield while he was preaching at a sermon in Pennsylvania. He said that his oratory was so remarkable that it made him ashamed to think of himself, and he was embarrassed. And he said he felt compelled to dig every coin out of his pocket and to place it in the collector's dish. And he was compelled to do so. And so he felt that he was that, charged up, I say. he was filled with excitement, but at the same time, it made him reevaluate himself. I think the Great Awakening years really established that everyone was spiritually connected. And through that, being spiritually connected with one another, it also gained us or enticed us extra freedom as one, as a united one. And I think because of this led to religious freedoms and thinking about that, where can I take my family and not be forced into the Church of England, but go with my own beliefs? And I think the Great Awakening years really started that. I think that was on its road to a more freedom, a more free society for the colonies. So I think that's what the Great Awakening years contributed to the 1740 migration families. Let me know your thoughts on that. I think it's fun to find Benjamin Franklin quoting that, and that he felt so compelled that he needed to empty out all of his coin out of his pocket for the collector's dish. Also, another thing would be less taxes. If they wanted to move to a less remote or rural area that wasn't so much governed by British rule versus other areas, like in Philadelphia, that would entice a lot of families to do that. They wanted to be more on their own, and they wanted to have family members or loved ones close by, but not be so controlled. And I think that's another reason why they would leave, to go to more rural areas, areas that have not been settled as much, or go to new areas completely. Also, colonial politics, that goes into that. The same thing with taxes, governing a people, less laws. That goes into the same pocket with that. And then with the land, just think if you had the opportunity today to go to a place that had never been settled before by anyone in your family or anyone that you know, would you take that opportunity to do that? That's basically what a majority of our ancestors were making a decision on. They were going to a place that they did not know much about. Or maybe you heard about it from various friends or other people that had already been there. But for the most part, it was fairly new. How about this? Would it entice you to migrate 300, 400, 500 miles to break soil that, to your knowledge, had never been broken before? Rich, fertile soil. Would that entice you to go? If you were a farmer, yes, that would wholeheartedly do that. Okay, so that's our reasons. If you can think of any more and you want to ask questions about that, then let me know. If not, I'm going to dig into the names. Okay, I know that's what y'all here for. I know. Let me read some more of these comments. All right, Catherine is here, late to the party. Hi from Texas. Hey, Catherine. And Lewis is here from North Carolina. Yay. Hello, Lewis. And Johnson, I'll enjoy your channel. Oh, thank you. I thank you so much for your kind words. And Robin's here from Alabama. Okay. All right, like I said, we're going to mention hundreds of names here. So here we go. We're going to go pretty quick with this. We've got a lot to go through. A lot of these are different various records. For records of this time period, you can use, there are all types available to you. You can use church histories. As far as migrating and finding which route they've taken, there's only a few routes that are available to them in the 1740 decade, okay? We'll discuss a little bit about the roads too. You can check for tavern records, public housing records. They're available. You just have to see which years are available. Ferry records, right? Certain ferry records where they crossed at certain rivers are accessible. You may be able to find out where the actual date when your ancestor crossed a particular river. There's also various cemetery records you may not think that have survived, but they may have been noted or found at a later date, and you can link your family. Oh, were they there? Oh my goodness, my family was never in this particular county or in this area of Virginia. But there now, I have finally found my ancestor who must have died along the trip, and they were buried there. So that's other records. So early church histories, road orders are a great tool to use during this time period. Also, wills and probates. Most of these families had to settle things before they left. So you'll need to see where if they owned property prior to them leaving, they would have had to sell that property. They would have also had to make plans for their trip, so other things would have been sold. If you pinpoint that down and note, the items that were sold to, maybe to a store, a local businessman purchased them, he would have had them kept in a ledger. You can find out the exact date maybe of when your family departed and when they left on this trip. All of these tools are useful. They're all added together to tell you the exact story of how your family left, where they traveled to, the places they visited along the way, and where they ended up. Tonight, I'm sharing road orders, land grants, and various things from our files. But like I said, I've got the databases up tonight, so let me know if you want me to look through them and if you want me to look through these too. All right, so we are beginning, and we're concentrating mainly in Virginia and North Carolina tonight. If you want to, I figured this is about as much time as we would have. If you want us to dig more into Maryland and South Carolina and even eastern portions of Georgia, let me know, and we'll have a separate one on this. What is the history of marriage bonds? It depends. What do you want to know about marriage bonds, Kayla? Let me know. Let me know. Okay, Augusta County road orders. Names from 1745 to 1749. I just picked out a random bunch. We have William McGill, Thomas Stinson, John Anderson, Andrew Lewis, Mark Evans, Thomas Scott, Simon Ayers, Robert Armstrong, John Cooper, Thomas Lucky, John Trimble, Henry Spears, Jonas Denton, Thomas Harrison, John Maxwell, Robert Patrick, and John Graham. Okay. All right, leaving into North Carolina. Oh, let's go back to Virginia. of road orders. We got John Grimes, who was overseer, okay? And all these names I just mentioned before were overseers of the road. Daniel Dennison. The Dennison family was part of a huge group that arrived into North Carolina years later. They are already here in 1745 in Virginia. And Daniel is made an overseer of a particular road that is heading into Swift Run. Okay, so he's his next generation leaves and goes to North Carolina. John Grimes, William Pierce, 1745, Augusta County, and Adam Miller. These two men were to cut a road from the top of the Blue Ridge to the head of Swift Run. Adam Miller and William Pierce. David Davis owned a mill near Swift Run in 1745. Daniel Holman was overseer, and Samuel Wilkins was an overseer in Augusta County in 1745. All right, early families arriving in North Carolina between the 1740 and 1750 who acquired property during this time frame is James Burns, 200 acres along Mountain Creek. George Gould, 640 acres along the eastern side of Petey River. Petey River at this time is a tributary of the Yadkin River. And these land grants are recorded in Bladen County. That's a Bladen County, which would have been covered that entire area of North Carolina in the Piedmont region up until 1750 when Anson County was took over and was named as part of that. And Anson County took over that area until 1753 when Rowan County came into an existence. Rowan County is the book that I told you about with Carolina Cradle. Okay, so these gentlemen here arrived years before Rowan County became a county, and they are living in the Piedmont area. They've applied for a land grant, and they have been issued one. Okay. James Barnes, 1746 on Mountain Creek, 200 acres. We've got Tyne Harris, 450 acres at the fork of Catawba River. This is really west for this time period in North Carolina. Dennis Daly, 1749, Catawba River, 1,000 acres, 1,000. Thomas Robinson, 160 acres along Catawba River and Stony Creek. Samuel Davis, north side of the Yadkin River and the Catawba Path, 1748, 579 acres. Robert Runick's family is also found in Virginia. Davis's family is also found in Virginia. So is Harris and Robinson. Daly family that I just mentioned is from Pennsylvania. We have documentation that they migrated straight through Virginia, straight into North Carolina. Runick's family, 1749, 175 acres on the Catawba River and Leapers Creek. John Clark, 1744, 1,000 acres on Clark's River and the South Fork of Catawba. James McDowell, 1749, 400 acres on Rocky Creek, running into Davidson's Creek. That's 1749. John Cathy, north side of Catawba River, 400 acres, 1749. Edward Givings, 270 acres, 1749 on the south side of Catawba River. Peter Elliott, 150 acres and 1749 on the east side of Catawba River. All right, Robert Mills, 500 acres on the north side of the Great PD. During this time period, the Great PD would refer to the tributary of the Yadkin River. This is in Bladen County. James Denson, 500 acres, north side of Great PD, 1746. John Hornbeck, 400 acres, same area. Thomas Jones, 200 acres, 1745, on the east side of the PD River. George Helms, Anson County, 1749, on the north side of PD River, and joining John Ashley's line. William Horn, 1749, 150 acres on Jones Creek. John McCoy, Anson County, 1749, 150 acres on Little River. Francis McKillen, 1749, 200 acres on the south side of Petey River. John Clark, 1749, 200 acres on the Little Creek, which joins into the Great Petey River. William Hawkins, Anson County, 1749 on Jones Creek. John Clark, 400 acres, 1749 on the north side of Rocky River. William Horn, 1749, 150 acres on Jones Creek. John McCoy, 1749, 150 acres on Little River. John Presley, 200 acres, 1749 on the Little Creek that joins into the Great Petey River. Burlingham Reed, 1749, 300 acres on Jones Creek, which runs into the Great Petey River. John Clark, 1749, Anson County, 200 acres on Great Petey River. George Hillis, Hilus, 1749, 100 acres in the same area. Hopkin Howe, 600 acres, 1749 on the Great Petey River south side. Everybody with me so far? Okay, but nothing else. Let's see. Let me read this. It's in 1780. Adam Miller, I need to know. Adam Miller, you need to know more about him. Okay. King County and Capes County. Okay, Kella, let's see. Kellah. I'm not sure how you pronounce that. And Berub. You've asked, I can find marriage bonds for my earliest ancestor on the King family in Gates County, North Carolina, in 1780. And you want to know what the history of marriage bonds. Tell me what you're really after here. I mean, are you looking for some type of marriage record for this time period in 1740s? And if so, where are you looking for that for? Okay, Wanda says, Adam Miller, I need to know more about him. And where did I just mention him? Was it as an overseer, or was in Virginia, or was it as through the land grants in North Carolina? Because I don't see Adam Miller. Because I just went through my list, so where did I mention him? Here he is. Okay, he was with William Pierce. These two men were to cut a road from the top of the Blue Ridge to the head of Swift Run. Adam Miller had already been in Augusta County, Virginia, prior to Augusta County becoming in existence. This is an early family. If you're related to Adam Miller, you need to go back to 1739, 1738, when this family migrated into Virginia, as for Wanda on Adam Miller. Okay, they arrived whole lot much earlier with the first phase of migration. Okay. All right. Let me go back where I was. Oh, okay. John Robinson, 1746, North Carolina, 600 acres. John Grady, 1746, 450 acres, west side of Petey River. This is all Bladen County, okay? Oh, Wanda, no worries. I have a whole lot more for Adam Miller and also on the Pierce family. So if you want to know that information, just shoot me, or you can contact me on the website and let me know. A lot of these names I'm sharing in our database for the Great Wagon Road Project. And so I have a whole lot more information on these families. What we were after with the Great Wagon Road Project is to find out exactly which families did travel and how they traveled, and if we could prove that they actually did travel on the Great Wagon Road. And it also helps us to prove the original route. During the Revolutionary War period. Okay, Kayla, you've been trying to track Lemuel King Sr. back into Virginia during the Revolutionary period. Where was he at before, prior to? If you're trying to track him back into Virginia, did he go somewhere else? And the King family has a long history in Virginia. Okay, Mercy says George Gander. Mary says George Gander. Okay, I'll send you. Yes, Wanda, just send me an email. And hey, just give me a little time to respond back to it. But yeah, send me an email. Gates County, North Carolina. Really? Lemuel King. Do you by chance know of his parents, Wanda? Kayla, do you by chance know of his parents? And Mary says George Gander. Was that somebody that I mentioned before, Mary? George Gander. Did I mention him as an overseer or George Gander? Gander. Or is that just someone you want me to look up? The name doesn't sound familiar. Gander. Okay. Robert Mills, 207 in North Carolina. Okay. John Westfield, 1741, 640 acres, Bladen County, North Carolina. James, all of these are North Carolina now. Okay. No, just hoping to hear his name. Oh, I hear you. I know how you feel. Yeah, the name doesn't sound familiar for that time period, but I might be wrong. Okay, we'll see. James Burns, 200 acres, 1746, Bladen County, west of Great Petey. George Lanier, not Lanier, but Lenore. I'm sorry. George Lenore, 400 acres, 5 miles above the Great Cheraws at 1743. William Blewett, Bleuit, 1748, 200 acres, east side of Great Petey. John Griggs, 1748, 100 acres, south side of Great Petey River. Caleb Howell, Bladen County, 1745, 400 acres, 1748, Bladen County. 300 acres, 1745. Abraham Colson, Colson, 150 acres, 1748. Matthew Creed, 200 acres, Bladen County, 1741. We're still along the Great Petey River, or a tributary of the Yadkin River, okay? John Redd, 1746, 150 acres. Henry O'Berry, 1748, 300 acres. Jasper King, 400 acres. And Samuel Hughes, 200 acres, 1748. Everybody still with? Okay, Thomas Holmes, 1748, 200 acres, Bladen County. We're still in Bladen County, Piedmont area, North Carolina, along the Petey River, tributary of the Yadkin. William Dinkins, 640 acres, 1741. Thomas Tompkins, Tomkins, 400 acres, 1741. Edward Cartledge, 100 acres, 1745. William McCoy, 300 acres, 1746. John McCoy, 300 acres, 1746. Thomas Holmes, 1749, 100 acres. John Colson, 1746, 200 acres. 810 acres for John Clark, 1746. Thomas Armstrong, 300 acres, 1746. Nicholas Smith, 200 acres, was still in the same area. Bladen County, 1749. Richard Jones, 320 acres, 1741. And 200 acres, Thomas Redd, 1746. He had two land grants. Benjamin Moore, 250 acres, 1749. He is still along the Great Petey River. Bladen County, 1749. Jacob Colson, 200 acres, 1746. John Harrington, 200 acres, 1748. John Giles, it's Giles, 300 acres, 1746. John Hicks, 640 acres, 1741. 200 acres, Thomas Jones, 1745. Edward Griffin, 400 acres, 1747. George Gould, Gould, George Gould, 640 acres, 1748. And Robert Mills, 200 acres at 1747. William Phillips, 300 acres at 1746. We're still in the same area. Anthony Abraham Boyd, 300 acres, 1748. James Burns, 1746, 200 acres. John Griggs, 100 acres, 1748. Caleb Howe, 400 acres, 1745. Matthew Creed, 200 acres, 1741. Thomas Tompkins, 400 acres at 1741. Still in the same area, everybody. William McCoy, 300 acres, 1746. And Hitchcock, Samuel Hitchcock, 300 acres at 1741. Okay. All in this area of Petey River, tributary of the Yadkin River. Piedmont of North Carolina, prior to 1750. All of those people. There are many, many more. There are thousands of people who traveled from middle colonies into that area of North Carolina just for these, to apply for land grants. Okay, and there are many, many more names. All right, now we're going to go along the Rocky River area, okay, prior to 1750. We got Joseph Waters, 200 acres at 1747, south side of Rocky River. 200 acres. This is still Bladen County at this time, okay? But this is along the Rocky River. This is a little bit closer to McCullough's lands in that area. All right, Jeremiah Swan, Swann, 200 acres, 1747. John Colson, 200 acres, 1746, along the Rocky River. Andrew Moorman, 400 acres, 1749, along the Rocky River. 300 acres to Joel McClendon, McClendon, 1748. We got 300 acres to David Miles along the Rocky River at 1745. 1741, Jasper King, 400 acres along the Rocky River in 1741. And 200 acres along the Rocky River, John Colson, in 1746. Okay, let me read some of your comments. My family is up in Virginia, but I will still listen. Well, we're getting to some Virginia. Don't you dare leave, Coleman. Hang on just a minute. We're still in North Carolina. Okay, John Pressler and home family are my people. Okay. And then they later moved to Tennessee. Sharon, you said your Pressler family were in Anson County, North Carolina, and then they moved to Tennessee. I'm interested. I want to know what time frame they left North Carolina to go to Tennessee, if you happen to know. Judy, I am looking for info on brothers Thomas and John Parks. Parks family are very prevalent along the early years of Rowan County, Judy. You want me to do a lookup for you in Carolina Cradle? That would be my first spot. If I were sitting here and these were my books that I had, that would be my first one that I grabbed for that area, for that family. Don't know that they'll have anything, but I know Parks family were prevalent along the Yadkin River very early. Oh, yeah. Parker family, association with North Carolina land speculators. And is it Parks or Parks? It is Parks. We've got Hugh Parks and John Parks mentioned in here. But I know they were very prevalent. I just want to see what they're going to say about John Parks, what Ramsey discovered about John. Now, I love Carolina Cradle. I do. And it's one of my really go-to sources. But I was just looking at this and what Ramsey discovered about these two brothers, Hugh and John Parks. He seemed to feel that apparently that they originated in Newcastle or Cecil County. So very possible, but he doesn't really list a source for that. And I don't, going back through also with the Parks, I don't remember them being very prevalent until after 1750. But I would need to go through some of my files to see if I'm wrong on that. Okay. Because there is a Parker family as well as a Sparks family. Oh, Parkers are entirely different. And Sparks, I wouldn't say that would be an affiliate of spelling variation of your surname either. And I don't want to misquote from my files because I can't remember everything. But do you know let me go back up to her comment. Parks, John Parks. See, let me ask you this, Judy. Do you know of a Hugh Parks? Hugh, Hugh Parks? Does that ring a bell in your family tree? Because you only mentioned Thomas and John in Amherst County, Virginia. So let me know on that. Okay. Video cameras. About the Coleman Berry. Okay. Nice, Coleman. Nice. So many bounding relatives in there. Yeah, Christina, that is a good book too. Very good book. Very good source. Yeah, I'm leaning towards after 1750, Judy. I really am. Christina says that side of the family married a Park from Cabarrus area. Okay. Don't know about Hugh. Well, that's why I asked you that, because I know for sure that Hugh and John were brothers, but Thomas did not ring a bell. So I'd have to go through my databases to see how they were, if they were related, if there's a Thomas that fits in there. David Lewis Jr. family. Okay. What time frame, PG, are you looking at Lewis family? All right. So we did finished up with Rocky River. Okay. We'll name a few more in the and like I said, there's thousands of people who are traveling, heading to North Carolina. We'll name a few more into North Carolina, and then we'll get on to into Virginia. Don't want you people to leave. We're going into Virginia. Just hold on. Okay, John Tyson, 1748, 350 acres. This is Deep River now. We're in Deep River. Deep River is east of present-day Yadkin and the PD River, and it's also east of Rocky River area. So like in Guilford County, okay, in that area. Rockingham County, more towards that area. Okay, we've got Thomas Armstrong, 300 acres, Deep River, 1746. Benjamin Foreman, 149 acres. That is a rare amount listed on a land grant. 1749, Deep River. Edward Griffith, get this, Edward Griffith, 7,654 acres in 1747. Yep. John Tyson, 350 acres, 1748, along the Deep River. We got a Jacob McClandon, McClandon, 300 acres on Deep River in 1748. Martin Caswell, 100 acres along Deep River, 1749. Okay. All right. There was a few other things I wanted to mention really quick. Susquehanna River. Your ancestors traveled from Pennsylvania. They would have most likely had to cross the Susquehanna River. In 1738, they would have had a ferry there that would have been in existence from 1738 and stayed in existence and in operation until 1901. And that would have been Wright's Ferry. The ferry was established there. You can still see the stone mansion. It still stands there today. Jan says, how was the number of acres determined? That depended on how much money they had and how much land was available in a particular area and what they'd chosen. They still had to pay for surveys and fees. So, yeah, it was and they had to have hard currency in North Carolina for those land grants. It wasn't a barter or trade, so they had to have hard coin currency to pay those fees for the number of acres. It would have all been what they could afford and what was available. But anyway, the Wright's Ferry, Susquehanna River, they would have, look into their records. Crossing into the Potomac from Maryland into Virginia, during this time frame, they would have most likely used pack horse forward. The very little ferries were in operation during this time period along the Potomac River. Pack horse forward, you can walk across. Okay, it's less than about 3.5 foot in height. If you cross during the right time of the year. Okay, which most families traveled in the early fall of the year. Families traveled to the Shenandoah Valley, a vast valley measuring approximately 180 miles in length. The Shenandoah Valley has a width of about 30 miles wide, but in some cases it does narrow up to 10 miles. This is where majority of the families who migrated into Virginia from the middle colonies settled in to the Shenandoah Valley. Okay. Small valley, but it's actually a large valley of 180 miles in length and about 30 miles wide. One other thing I was going to mention really quick is someone made a comment about the Baker family on a post that we had put on YouTube a month ago when we were postponing this live stream, and they were inquiring about Baker family. They weren't sure if they were from Maryland, and they gave names. Absalom Baker was born in Maryland. I don't remember who had responded to my comments or posts, but the Baker family is most definitely prevalent in Baltimore, Maryland. So if you made a comment on the post on our YouTube channel where we were postponing our live stream, that post, this is the answer to your question. They were most affiliated with the Kennedy family, and they traveled with the Kennedy family to North Carolina and the Sewell County family, Sewell. They all traveled together after 1750, okay? Baker had owned land in Rowan County, early plat maps of Rowan County near Kannapolis, North Carolina. And this was the other thing that I was going to add. The original family cemetery for the Baker family in Mecklenburg County is made up into the Kannapolis Cemetery, public cemetery today. Okay. They have a small section in that cemetery that is designated to the first settlers in that area. All right. We're going to go to Virginia. Okay, where do I want to start? I'm going to make this quick. Okay, 1740. Robert Cole, I got to spell this, Coleclough, Coleclough, 325 acres of Stafford County, originally from Stafford County. 325 acres for early Virginia. We've got a set July 1740 Charles, a Reverend Dr. Charles Green, and a Captain Jeremiah Bronaugh. They were both of Prince William County. They acquire 1,085 acres near Beaver Dam Fort of Goose Creek on July 1740. Okay. Isaac Ferguson of Prince William County, 200 acres along Licking Creek of Bull Run. And we have Captain Willoughby Newton of Westmoreland County, Virginia. He applies for 824 acres on Beaver Dam Run. Richard Bryant of King George County, Virginia. He applies for how much is it? 49 acres in October 1740. I'm gonna have to spell this one too. And I don't know if I'm spelling it right. Gedney, Gedney Clark, Barbados merchant. Okay, he's a Barbados merchant. He applies for a property, 3,000 acres on Goose Creek, November the 3rd, 1740. All right, other surnames applying for land in Virginia prior to 1750. We've got Colonel John Colville, Colvill, Colvill, 1,429 acres. This is along Scotts Run and Wolf Trap area. John Colville again, 471 acres on Broadwater. John Summers, 1740 November on Broadwater and Rolling Road. John Summers. Edward Hughes, November 1740, Goose Creek, 475 acres. Samuel Stone, 1740, 304 acres at head of Pope's Head Run. That is Pope's Head Run, Popeshead, Pope's Head Run. John Clark, 1,748 acres in 1740 on Goose Creek. We have Thomas Atwell, 276 acres in 1740 on Broad Run. We have Daniel Tebbs, Tebbs, 1740, applies for 418 acres on Goose Run. George Rogers, 1740, 227 acres adjacent to Valentine Barton, John Sears, Thomas Barton, and Bradley Gardner, all dated 1740 on Broad Run. Henry Turner, 1740, 1,700 acres on Goose Creek. Let me see where I'm at now. Looking for David Lewis Jr., family in Rutherfordton, North Carolina. What time frame, PG, are you looking for that? 1779. Okay. Piece. I have family 1622, 25 in the James City area now that got a first piece of land, but I don't understand how they ended up with the land. Coleman, they ended up with the land in 1622. Is that what you're saying? The James City area? How was the number of acres determined? Thank you. I will visit when I go see my sister. I have family in Kannapolis. Yeah. I wanted to let you, Christina, was it you? Well, that's great. I'm glad that was you. Yeah, Kannapolis Cemetery, the main one, is where the Baker family was. That's where they lived. That's where their home was. Is that where the large cemetery of Kannapolis? That was their home. And that cemetery, the old settlers were first buried right there. They're in that cemetery. And as far as Lewis, PG, 1779, there are several Lewis families who migrate to North Carolina. And there are several branches of the Lewis family that comes. They even end up in South Carolina first, and they come up to North Carolina. So in 1779, you've got several Lewis families with that surname. Okay, where were we? Robert Elliston in 1740, 484 acres along Rocky Run. And then we have Thomas Jordan in 1740, 487 acres along Barrows Run. And then John Diskins, December 1740, 705 acres along Run of Cub Run. And we have Morris Veal, 1740, in Fort between Bull Run, 368 acres. We have Edward Dole, which is dated December 1740, along Goose Creek. Then we have Peter Rust, May of 1741. This is all Virginia, around Pope's Head Run and Piney Branch. Acreage, 154 acres. We've got William Kearns of 1741, 70 acres adjacent to William Montoy, Montoy, and Jeremiah Darnell. William Davis, set for supplies. Now, there's something I want to say about the Davis family in Virginia. They get here, they're here early, very early. They're in this particular area where I'm about to read for this William Davis here. They're already there in the 1720s. And we have documentation on that. This is one of our early families that migrate. William Davis, 200 acres, 1741. Cooper's cabin, and adjacent to Thomas Davis. And one of the first Davis families that arrives, I think it's 1728, 1729, is Samuel Davis. Samuel Davis. All right. Okay, you guys. I'm going to stop here. Do you want me to do a lookup? Let me know. We're going on the hour mark here. So my little book's making squeaky noises. Let me know if you want me to do a lookup. Our next live stream will be August the 24th. And we're going to go into detail about the North Carolina roads during 1810. 1810, North Carolina explodes after the initiation of the 19th century. It's amazing. North Carolina really, really grows in population after the American Revolutionary War. But because of certain things going on in North Carolina, people are leaving in droves and by wagon loads. Huge wagon trains are leaving out in North Carolina by 1810. That your first family member got here in 1622 near the James City, Virginia area, but I don't understand how they acquired the land. What was this? Let me go back, Coleman, to your surname. And was it Coleman? Wasn't that your surname? Remind me again. And if it was, let me grab a book real quick. And tell me your surname, and I'll do a quick lookup. And another trusty friend that I've got. Yeah, got several here. All right. William or Henry ring a bell with you, Coleman? Let me see the dates of William here. (1624). Bermuda 100. If you're wondering how he acquired the land, it's according to my sources, it's naming him as an ancient planter. So he's one of the original ones who came to Virginia on the, says the ship Noah in August 1610. So if he was one of the ancient planters, I understand it's William, but you might want to look into your family tree for a Henry. And if that's the case, then Henry would have passed down the, I'll show you the source here in just a minute, Mary. If Henry is a family member to your William, then that would have, land would have been passed down from generation or, so on into the will. But yeah, and it's, I knew when you told me the name, I was like, oh yeah, that's very early. But I wasn't aware they were ancient. But if they were ancient planter, then that definitely would have qualified them. It also names his wife, Henry, was Anne. And yes, that's the ship. Yeah. Now it says in January of 1625, which would have been 15 years from Henry's arrival there, they were living in Bermuda 100. They were in that census. They were listed there. And I find it very interesting of Henry's age when he arrives. He's very young, very, very young. All right, Mary. Well, the source that I'm using here is Virginia Immigrants. This was a quickie, and I just knew I had this sitting on the side of my desk when Coleman asked me the questions. Virginia Immigrants and Adventures, 1607 to 1635, a biographical dictionary. Very good friend. Okay. Trace your William back, Coleman. Go back and see if you can link it to Henry. Okay. Henry's one that arrived in 1610. Annabelle, I am researching Conway family, specifically John Conway, his wife, Elizabeth Bridgewater, sons. What time frame are you researching, Annabelle? They came here with someone on the ship, I believe was a woman, but I don't find the woman after the ship. Yeah, the ship that I mentioned, Coleman, was the Noah. The Noah sailed to James City area in 1610, carrying Henry Coleman. Okay, so not sure what ship you're referring to because you said that is the ship. Well, the ship Noah was no longer in existence by 1622, 1624. Okay, so don't know which ship you're referring to there. But the one I was referring to was Henry Coleman. He arrived in 1610. Okay. And him and his wife Anne were living in Bermuda 100 in 1624. They were listed there. But Henry Coleman arrived on the ship Noah very young, very young. He was very young. Captured by the British in Kentucky and handed over to the Indiana time frame, 1750. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. What did Annabelle say? The Conway family was captured by the British in Kentucky. No, Coleman, I think you've got your years right. I just think you need to research your William and just research. Don't concentrate on your arrival of William coming into James City. Instead, bring your concentration to William and dating his family back already in Virginia. In other words, start with Henry Coleman from 1610 and work your way down and see if you link to your William. As far as Annabelle with Elizabeth and John Conway, yes, the names sound familiar for the time frame, but the other story does not. It's at all. That's why I went back and looked. Captured by the British in Kentucky and handed over to the, I think you're saying Indians, time frame 1750. What was that about? That's a story. Oh my goodness. In circa 1750 in Kentucky. Mm-hmm. Okay. How do we find the ship our family members came to America? There's many different ways that you can find that out. There you go through where was your family living at that you first found them, and then trace them back. Were they? Do you know that they arrived in Philadelphia? If you do you know the time frame that they arrived in? If you do, then you look for ships that record ships that were arriving in that area during that specific time, and then go through the list. A lot of these can be found online. Good luck, Coleman. Let me know how that turns out, because now I'm interested. I want to know if William is related to Henry Coleman. Yes. Okay. Virginia and then Kentucky. I can see, Annabelle, I can see that through southwestern Virginia maybe area. But I don't know about captured by the British. Why? I do know of several Conway in that area. I'm not sure. I'm not sure about that. Any information on the Highlands through James City? I think we need to go back into maybe 100 years before and go back into 1620s. Sally on Holland. Okay, I'll do this last lookup, guys, and then we're gonna end it. She wants me to look through this through the 1620s. What was the name? Hollands. Oh yeah, Hollands. All right. All right, you're going to have to pinpoint exactly what you're looking for. Who is this? Sally. How can we reach you? Tom, you can reach me through, leave a message here on YouTube, or you can send me an email. You can send it to contact@PiedmontTrails.com. Or you can go to our website, PiedmontTrails.com, and there is a contact form, and you can fill that out, and that will also come to us. Yeah, that's not, yeah, it wasn't 1750, Annabelle. That's a lot later. Okay, 1780, Ruddles Station. I came from Virginia originally, yep. Gabriel Francis, Sally says. Gabriel. Oh, yes, there's a lot about Gabriel. What would you like to know about Gabriel? 113. Gabriel. Let's see what this one has to say about him. It's probably about his original rival. I'll share that with you. 113. Gabriel. Mm-hmm. That's weird. Gabriel Holland owned a lot of servants. He was very well to do during this time frame, Sally. And a lot of these records in this book goes back to his servants, and it names them. So you're looking for any mention of exactly who his kids were. I would suggest no, that it won't have that here, but I don't see that. It goes into detail about his servants, his indentured servants. Let me go back to this last one, and maybe I might can find some notes about his will. Hang on just a minute. No. You'll need to locate his will. Have you been able to, you've not been able to do that with such a, he was a very well-to-do citizen. I mean, he would have definitely had a will. Yeah, I would go to that, Sally. I don't understand why that would be an issue, because he was a very well-to-do gentleman. He was definitely a gentleman his whole entire time in Virginia, and he would have definitely had a will. You're still looking. Yeah, it would definitely, and you should be able to find more information about him. He was very wealthy. He had many servants that were indentured to him. Some were indentured to him for their entire lives. Yeah. Okay. We're going to end it here, folks. Thank you. Remember that we've got a new live stream coming up. The next one will be about roads during the 1810s in North Carolina. And this is the years after the American Revolutionary War. And people have already been settling in North Carolina. Life's gotten kind of normal, so to speak. But then all of a sudden families they're on the run again in 1810, and there's all types of new roads for them and all types of different directions they can go in. So that's what we'll be concentrating on our next live stream, August 24th on Sunday, 7:30 p.m. Thank you so much for all of your support. Again, if you want to contact me, you can reach me at contact@PiedmontTrails.com, or you can go to PiedmontTrails.com and click on the contact form, and you can get into us there. Okay, James, what was your question, since you so politely wanted to say that I had a question? Sally, I wish you good luck. Keep looking, because it shouldn't be that difficult to find for his will. And look for any Holland, okay, during that time frame around his death for a will, because that will link you to the right direction, I'm sure. Once you find one, okay, you'll find him. Okay, James, I'm waiting on your question. He said a bad word. Okay. I guess he didn't have a question after all. All right. What else was I going to say? Oh, if you want to know more about a certain area, or a certain time frame, or if you want to go back to the 17th century in our files and that, then let me know. Let us know what you want us to discuss on these live streams, okay? Because this is all about you guys, all right? All right. We're going to end it here. Thank you. Thank you so much. And you guys enjoy your journey to the past. And God bless.